Someone make it make sense.
Probably a couple.
Hello, everybody. Welcome on in for another Idaho v. Kohberger stream. We've got some new court documents. Woo! Welcome, Leslie and Billy. Sorry I had to push the time back. As you guys probably figured, I was finishing up with students, and I had a really motivated kid who wants to earn his purple belt for his orchestra class on Saturday. And, you know, it's just one of those things. You just stick with them until they get their piece done, and he's going to definitely get his purple belt. So awesome. Shout out to Benjamin. Anyway, okay. So, right. So we've got some new documents here, guys. Now, as per usual, a lot of these are just things, sealing things, but we do have some new orders for motions in limine, including the text messages in 911 call, striking the death penalty due to autism, and the vague and undisclosed expert testimony. So today we are going to start out with taking a look at the text messages in 911 call. Also, this will redirect you guys into the next stream here shortly, which will be Karen Reed for today. And we will also, there's a new court filing for that we will take a look at as well. And I've got some other things planned for that too. So that will be up next after this. So excelente. Let's just get started with this one here. This just posted to the docket that I was able to see. So I don't even know if anyone's covered it yet, but regardless, here we are. All right. So we have here, let me just zoom in a little bit. All right, order on the state's motions in limine, text messages, and 911 call. All right. Introduction. DM and BF are the two surviving roommates of 1122 King Road. At the time the homicides were believed to have occurred, DM saw an masked, oh my God, the typos though, a masked intruder in the house and began calling and texting the other roommates, including BF. Approximately 8 hours after DM saw the intruder, BF called 911 from her phone. Before the court is the state's motion to allow the text messages by DM and BF, testimony about their conversations with each other about what DM saw, and the 911 call. The state argues that these communications are either not hearsay or qualify under one or more exception, that should be exceptions plural, to the hearsay rule. It also asks that a transcript of the 911 call be provided to the jury to view while listening to the audio. Defendant challenges several of the communications and objects to the use of the transcript. That's my recollection, is that the defense provided a certified copy and said that was fine. Anyway, all right, oral argument on the motions was held on April 9th, 2025, after which the court took the matters under advisement. The court finds that some of the hearsay statements in the 911 call do not qualify under the exceptions cited by the state and therefore must be redacted. However, the balance of the 911 call, as well as the texts and conversations noted herein, are likely admissible, provided that the requisite foundation is laid at trial. Footnote 1. The court's rulings on the specific text messages and phone activity and the 911 call statements are appended hereto in table formats as Exhibits A and B, respectively. Cool. Love that. Leslie and Billy says it's crazy. I've heard only a little. All right, cool. All right, the transcript will be allowed as a demonstrative aid. So what that means, right, guys, is it's not going to go back with the jury. It's a demonstrative aid. So they will get the phone call, right, back to deliberate, but the transcript will only be a demonstrative aid. Again, assuming proper foundation is established. Standard. Whether a statement falls within the present sense impression and or excited utterance exceptions is a question that is left to the sound discretion of the trial court, giving consideration to the totality of the circumstances. Use of demonstrative aids is also a discretionary determination. On discretionary matters, the trial court must 1, correctly perceive the issue as one of discretion, 2, act within the outer boundaries of its discretion. Actually, I'm not going to read all these. These are he cites these in every single one of these orders so far. So, okay, facts. Footnote 2. That's fucking interesting, is it not? Look at this, guys. Facts, footnote 2. Literally never seen that before in a heading like this. Holy shit. What does it say? The party submitted various portions of the grand jury transcript as different exhibits, including the state's exhibit S1 to the 911 call motion, defendant's exhibit 1 to his objection of the 911 call motion, and state's exhibits, blah, blah, blah. Okay. To avoid confusion, the court will cite to the grand jury transcript rather than cite to the individual exhibits. Citations to DM's and BF's phone activity in the bubble format attached as Exhibits 1 and 2 respectively to defendant's objection to the state's text message motion will be referenced as Exhibits D1 and D2. These go completely against the 911 call. I'm not sure what you mean by go against. Let me know. Okay. After spending the evening out, roommates DM, BF, Kaylee, and Madison returned to their home at 1122 King Road in the early morning hours of November 13th. At approximately 2 a.m., they met up in Kaylee's bedroom and talked for a while before going to bed. Oh my gosh, we're getting some new information. Welcome, Doug. Read this again. This is new information. At approximately 2 a.m., they met up in Kaylee's bedroom and talked for a while before going to bed. The fifth roommate, Xana Kernodle, who was out with her boyfriend Ethan. Ethan was not home yet. The roommates debated going out to a food truck for a late snack, prompting DM to send a text message at 2:10 a.m. to an Uber driver she knew to see if he was driving. Ultimately, what? But why? They already went to a food truck. Ultimately, however, the girls decided to just go to bed. At approximately 4 a.m., DM heard strange noises and crying coming from the bathroom. From the bathroom. Oh my gosh. She opened her door at one point and saw a man dressed in black with a ski mask on walking by her bedroom door. She then placed calls and texts to other roommates to see if they were awake. Only BF, who resided on the ground floor, answered. They spoke for 24 seconds, during which DM told BF she thought she heard something. They spoke again. Yeah, it says that, Doug, that she made it. Dylan texted the Uber driver. We already knew that, though. That was already in the other thing, the other filings. The part we didn't know is the bit about that they were debating going out to a food truck, but they already, which is weird to me because they already had done that. So I don't know. Okay, so they spoke again for 24 seconds, during which DM told BF she thought she heard something. They spoke again a minute later for 41 seconds when DM told BF she saw a man in a ski mask leaving the house. So she saw the man twice? Or hold on, let me look, there's a footnote. Dear Lord. BM testified to her recollection of the content of these two phone calls before the grand jury. However, DM could not recall the specifics about what was said. So hang on. Let me see this. So it looks like, okay, hang on. I was just trying to figure out, did she see him twice? I think it's just that that's when she told BF about it. So she opened her door at one point and saw a man dressed in black with a ski mask on. So according to this, what this is saying is the first time they spoke, she said she thought she heard something. Then when they spoke again, she said she saw a man in a mask leaving the house. Well, leaving the house is, you guys know how I feel about that, right? She doesn't actually say that. It's walking towards that direction, but there's no way to know. And that's that whole thing, like I've been complaining about, where they really want it to seem like he was leaving out that sliding glass door. So that's one of those. Oh God. Okay. So what's interesting though, is that previously when we've gone through the text messages and whatnot here, my estimation based on the length of these two phone calls was actually the same as what it's saying here, which is that the first time that they talked, they said whatever. But then my thought was that it was after the 41-second call was that when she said to BF the part about the person in a mask, given what follows with their text messages. So we had talked about that earlier. That was just my thought on what happened. But now this is saying that's actually that's what they're saying. So that was accurate. Correct. He's referencing, correct. Let me just review this here so everyone's on the same page. So Doug, yeah. So what he's saying here is, where is it? Facts, footnote 2, right? The footnote 2 says that to avoid confusion, the court will cite to the grand jury transcript, rather than cite to the individual exhibits. So what this is saying basically is that they should say the same thing, but it's just that the individual exhibits are labeled differently depending on the state's exhibit and the defense exhibit, and they all came from the grand jury. So what he's saying, from what it sounds like here, is he's just going to cite to the grand jury transcript so that it's all from the same thing, right? Versus the other. Now, when it comes to the text messages, he's going to be referencing them as from exhibits D1 and D2. So yeah, these are all from the grand jury. But it sounds like what we already had previously was also from the grand jury transcript, I guess, as far as what they said happened. Now, there's more information here, right? In addition to what we had, but it was, I guess, all from the grand jury. Does that make sense, guys? Let me know why you're confused and if I can help clarify it. Okay, so, all right. So then they exchanged the following text messages between 422 and 426. So this we've seen, right? A million bazillion times. No one has answered. I mean, we've all read all this. I'm not going to read all this again. This is exactly, there's a typo there for Bethany. I don't remember that typo. I feel like the name was correct. We were actually talking about this last night, but anyway, we were talking about the number of typos in DM's text messages. Okay. So then there's an exhibit D1 footnote 4. So what that means is this. Oh, okay. It just says the typos and abbreviations are in the original messages. So again, whenever it cites exhibit D1, right, that means that D1 is coming from the defendant's exhibits from their objection. Remember how the state's initial filing had limited text and then the defense included exhibits and it had a lot more? So those are D1 and D2, the defendants, the exhibits that were attached to their objection. So when it says D1 or D2, that's what he's citing, okay? So in other words, this, what was here previously, right? This is from the defense exhibit, okay? Okay. During the foregoing exchange, DM also attempted contacting Ethan Chapin through Snapchat. And that's from the grand jury transcript footnote 5. DM testified before the grand jury that Instagram is a text messaging app that is used by young adults to communicate. Well, it can be used by people of all ages, but that's what she testified to. Anyway. Okay, during the foregoing exchange, DM also attempted contacting Ethan through Snapchat. That's new information to us. Okay, I'm going to go back through this and do what I've done before and highlight everything that's new. So, which isn't a bad idea because this is a lot to process. So let me get my highlighter working here if I can. And I'm going to highlight in my favorite color here, everything that is new to us. So okay, I went back too far. Okay, so this part, they met up in Kaylee's bedroom. And talked for a little while. And then they debated. I mean, this is so weird because they had just done this. But anyway. Actually, hold on. We already knew about her texting the Uber driver. Now, this part about the bathroom is new. Oh, no, not that. Jesus Christ. Hold on. Okay. Okay, that's all new stuff there. This is not new, obviously. And then this is new. And now that takes us up to where we left off. So now we are just going to highlight the new things as we go, guys. Okay. Why does it keep alternating? Okay. Dude. All right. Why? Tell me why. Highlight. Can we highlight the same way every time, please? Okay. All right. Good. Good, good. Welcome anyone who's just now getting here. It's hard, as you guys know, to read the documents and read the chat as much. But yes, welcome. We've got Twiz here. Excellent. All right. Welcome, Just Beth. All right. So we're highlighting everything that is new information. We're getting a lot of new information already here. She again tried calling Kaylee and Xana, but neither responded. DM then exited her bedroom and began running toward BF's bedroom. So I'm going to count this as new because we didn't actually know, like it was implied because of the text message, like get down here, but we hadn't actually seen this said like in like verbatim, like that it happened. It was just, you could kind of try to assume it. So I'm going to count this as new because this is actually being said that this was testified to at the grand jury. Oh, fuck. On her way, she noticed Xana lying on the floor of her bedroom with her head towards the wall and her feet towards the door. Wow. Oh my God. Wow. Does anybody remember where the bathroom is in relation to Xana's room? I'm sure I've got a thing with that somewhere, but it'd be easier if you guys can just tell me than me trying to go find it. Because she heard the crying from the bathroom, right? That again, that's one of the new informations here. And then I feel like the bathroom was close, wasn't it? DM exited her room and then began running towards, it's right beside it. Thank you, Nietzsche. That's what I thought. Thank you for confirming that. Okay, that's what I thought. On her way, she noticed Xana lying on the floor of her bedroom with her head towards the wall and her feet towards the door. Wow, guys. Once DM arrived at BF's room, they locked the door and both made, this is again new stuff here. I mean, you know, the locking of the door here. Okay. They locked the door. Why didn't they call 911? The question I will always be asking for until the end of time. We know that they made additional calls. So there we go. At 4:32 a.m., DM texted Kaylee, please answer. This is crazy. With no response. And then again, if it cites exhibit D1, you can remember D is defense, right? So S is state, D is defense. So the defense exhibit, again, from their objection to the state's filing. Between approximately 5 a.m. and 6:30 a.m., DM engaged in activity with her phone, primarily creating, editing, and deleting images and photos. So I don't know. I'm trying to remember. Let me pull up just so I can verify, because again, if that specific time frame was included in the previous filings, let me pull up my other thing where I have it highlighted here. Just so you guys know, you might get a kick out of this, especially you, Twiz, that my BK, you know, I've got folders for all these different cases, right? My BK folder, I just have named it maps, just so you know, like that's just funny, right? I just my maps folder is everything BK. Okay, let me just pull this up and look and see if that time is new, because I have it all highlighted here on my other thing. Just looking. We have 4:37. Okay, no, that's Bethany. No, that is new. That is new. That's new. All right, it's confirmed new. All right. So highlighter again. That's new. I mean, we knew she was doing this type of shit, but in terms of that time frame, right? Her phone activity then ceased until 8:05 when DM accessed Insta. So that's the thing that we did have. We did have that. Wow. Welcome everyone who's just getting here. Again, it's harder for me to read the chat as I'm reading this, but happy to see all you guys who are here. Shout out to everybody who's watching. Okay. At 10 a.m., DM again accessed Instagram and communicated over Snapchat. Again, I think we already had that. 10:23. She texted, "Are you up?" We had that. DM continued to access Instagram and Snapchat until 11:29. We had all this before. Again, there was no response, which DM thought was strange because Kaylee and Madison were early wakers. Okay. This is new. Okay. All this just points to why aren't you fucking calling 911? Oh, dude, okay. DM continued accessing various social media sites, including checking Ethan and Xana's Snapmap locations. At approximately 11:40. So I think the tone here, okay, I'm going to highlight this, is that he's trying to make it seem like the reason she was on social media was to try to figure out what they were doing, although they don't, it doesn't make any sense anyway. They know they're in the house. I mean, this is dumb, but this is, okay. In my opinion, this is Judge Hippler trying to explain this, which is not his job. But anyway, right? Like including checking, which I don't use Snapchat, but I would imagine that Snapmap is supposed to be a location thing on Snapchat. Oh my God, why? Tell me why. At approximately 11:40, DM's father texted her about scheduling a time for a chat, to which DM responded. She also received 2 texts from a person named Xana. So we knew this, saying, bro, and do you guys need me to come get you? We knew that part. At approximately 11:50 a.m., DM called her friend EA and asked her to come over and check the house because she was scared. EA and her boyfriend HJ came over. Well, here's the other thing. I don't blame her for being scared, but you know what you don't do is call other people over. This is so there's a reminiscent of Murdoch, right? Where it's like, if you really believe that there's these assassins on the loose, but you call everybody you fucking know to come over there, including your own family members, it makes no sense, right? So they can all get killed too, potentially, right? It's like, this is like that. Like, I'm scared, and if you're her, it's like you saw that you're scared because of the things that happened, but you're going to call other friends to come over so that they can be the ones to potentially get killed or whatever the fuck. Why are you not calling law enforcement? Ugh. EA and her boyfriend HJ came over. They met DM and BF at the bottom floor of the house. Okay, that's new information. It's what I kind of figured, although I guess my thought was maybe they were outside. Anyway, this is just confirming. Okay, there we go. To have it in writing. Together, DM, BF, and HJ started to walk up the stairs to the second floor. This is new information. This is all new information. Holy fuck. Holy fuck. When they reached the second floor, HJ went to the kitchen to grab a kitchen knife. What is happening? Why are you guys taking... Dude. What? This is like what you would see in like a movie, right? Like a horror movie where it's like, and usually the way this ends is all these people that are like grabbing the kitchen knife instead of calling law enforcement all end up dead. What is going on? Is this real? This can't be real. You're grabbing a kitchen knife? Okay. What that says to me is they all perceive that there could be somebody in the house that is killing people that they need to have. Like, if you're grabbing a kitchen, what is going on? Why have we not heard about this knife? We've got somebody else handling an... Okay. I mean, dude, Heather, I don't even... When he came back out, DM saw Xana again for a split second. Why is it phrased like this? When he came back out, so DM saw Xana again for a split second, and I just started... So now it's citing her testimony from the grand jury from first person, and I just started bawling because I thought she had just, like, I don't even know. I thought maybe she was just still drunk or all asleep on the floor. I swear to God. Oh my God. BF also saw Xana lying on the floor. Wow. I mean, what I will say is this. I am glad that Judge Hippler is including new facts. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that, right? That we're getting a lot of new information. This is just all new. Just may as well highlight the whole fucking thing. HJ told DM and BF to get out. Oh, wow. EA, who had started up the stairs, also turned around after HJ and instructed her not to come any further. They both went outside. Shortly afterwards, HJ exited the house and told them to call 911. He was pale white and mentioned something about someone being unconscious. What is with them all thinking people are unconscious? If you really think that, why are you grabbing a knife? It doesn't. Okay. If you really think people are just unconscious, right, or asleep, you wouldn't be grabbing a knife. But if you think that there is something that happened to them enough to where you're grabbing a knife, that means you think that they're dead, which then in that case, why are you taking matters into your own hands with a stupid knife and not calling 911? Help. At 11:56 a.m., BF, Twiz, they need to join your Church of the Logic, by the way. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm getting out of this. They need to join your Church of the Logic. All right. At 11:56 a.m., BF called 911 from her cell phone and spoke to Carolina Calvin, the 911 dispatcher. The call lasted for 4 minutes and 11 seconds. During the call, the was passed around to several different individuals, as we know, including BF, DM, HJ, and an unidentified female speaker. Heavy breathing and crying can be heard throughout the call. BF spoke first, stating, "Something is happening. Something's happened in her house. And we don't know what." And we have all that in the transcript. BF attempted to provide the address of the house to dispatch, but she could not continue. She got it fucking wrong. At that point, an unidentified female speaker took the phone and provided the address and BF's phone number. That's interesting that they don't know who the person is. How do they not know who the person is, though? It's not like unidentified as in we're using initials. Like, how do they not know who? Okay. The following, okay, never mind. Let me go back and highlight this shit with the unidentified, because I figured that eventually they'd be like, we figured out who it was, but no. Oh no. It's not like they're saying the name. It's not like they put the name and redacted it, or even the initials and redacted it, which they could have done. The fact that they keep saying unidentified is like they don't know who this person is. I don't understand, though. Okay, keep reading, keep highlighting, just keep going along, just keep swimming. Find female speaker, just highlight, just a little highlighting here, a little highlighting there. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. It's all good. Okay. Is this the same unidentified female speaker? Is there more than one? How many unidentified people? Dude. Okay. Following exchange ensued. 911 operator. Okay, and tell me exactly what's going on. Female. One of our roommates who's passed out and she was drunk last night. She's not okay. This we all know. Are you with the patient? I'm scrolling through. I think all of us will notice if there's anything added, but this all looks the same. Okay. DM then informed dispatch that Xana was 20 years old. At that point, HJ took the phone. Dispatch asked him if she was breathing, to which HJ answered no. Law enforcement arrived at that point, and after confirming with DM that the responding officer had a defibrillator, dispatch ended the call. Later, at approximately 1:04, DM received a vandal alert regarding the homicide. Why just DM? Wouldn't everyone get a vandal? Whatever. What do you mean by this here? Take my pick, might as well make it my own. What does that mean? Analysis. All right. The state seeks to admit TM's and BF's phone records from November 13th, 2022, including call records and text messages, as well as illicit testimony by BM and DF regarding, I wouldn't even know. And I'm not going to speculate. That's not my thing. But I wouldn't, I'm not going to speculate. I'm more just shocked that it sounds like they still haven't identified the person. That's the crazy thing. Like, how have they not identified the person? Right? Didn't they ask them who the person was? Anyway. So the state seeks to admit DM's and BF's phone records from November 13th, 2022, including call records and text messages, as well as illicit testimony by DM and BF regarding their communications with each other on November 13th that they testified to before the grand jury. The state also seeks to admit the 911 call and the official transcript thereof. The state argues that these records and communications are not hearsay, or they are accepted from hearsay as excited utterance or present sense impressions. Defendant objects, arguing that apart from HJ's statement to 911 that Xana was not breathing, the exceptions do not apply to the hearsay statements. The court finds the bulk of the statements are likely admissible, with 3 exceptions of statements made during the 911 call. Hearsay is an out-of-court statement admitted to prove the truth of the matter asserted. Yes, indeed. To be hearsay, the statement must be intended as an assertion of the fact being offered by the proponent for purposes of proving the truth of the assertion. We've talked about hearsay at length. If a statement is hearsay to be admitted, it must fall under an exception. Yeah. Hearsay statements on a 911 call can typically be admitted into evidence under either public record or business record exceptions to the hearsay rule. So I don't know why they're not going with the public record route, like they being the state, but anyway. However, because citizens who call 911 are not under any duty to report, a recorded statement by a citizen must satisfy a separate hearsay exception. Typically, these exceptions include presence. Wait, what? Hold on. Hearsay statements on a 911 call can typically be admitted under public record or business record exceptions hearsay rule. So this just looks like there's contradictory case law here. That's what this looks like to me. Because this one is citing this case here. So this is a Federal Court of Appeals from 1995 saying that the part about public record or business record, I mean, that's what I figured, right? I mean, they always come in trials. But then this other one says, this is actually from the Federal Rules of Evidence, sorry. God, okay. Typically, these exceptions include present sense impression and the excited utterance exception. The present sense impression exception authorizes the admission of hearsay if it is a statement describing or explaining an event or condition made while or immediately after the declarant perceived it. From the Rules of Evidence, the rationale justifying the exception is that the immediacy of the statement offers no opportunity for fabrication. And of course, there's also like a gray area, as there always is, right? With like what counts as immediate, right? But anywho, that will vary depending on the circumstances. The rule recognizes that in many, if not most instances, precise contemporaneity, I don't know if I'm saying that, is not possible, and hence a slight time lapse is allowable. So that's exactly what I was saying, slight. So then, of course, define slight, right? That's how it works with the law. Now, this is the distinction, right, from present sense impression versus an excited utterance, right, guys? So, okay, slight time lapse is allowable. The Idaho Supreme Court observed that time lapses as short as 45 minutes. And it's so funny. In my mind, I was like, I feel like it's been up to 45 minutes has been allowed. And there it is. Keep reading. I was literally thinking, I'm like, why do I have 45 minutes in my head? All right. As short as 45 minutes have been considered too long to invoke the protection. Okay. So less than 45 minutes. Probably. The excited utterance exception to hearsay will authorize the admission of hearsay if the testimony recounts a statement related to a startling event or condition where the declarant was under the stress of excitement caused by the event or condition. To fall within the excited utterance exception, 1, there must be a startling event that renders inoperative the normal reflective thought process of the observer. And 2, the declarant statement must be a spontaneous reaction to that event rather than the result of reflective thought. In considering whether a statement meets the excited utterance requirements, the totality of circumstances must be considered, including the amount of time that elapsed between the startling event and the statement, the nature of the condition or event, and the age and condition of the declarant, the presence or absence of self-interest, and whether a statement was volunteered or made in response to a question. I will just say, as far as the defibrillator goes, my impression is that when they were asked about the defibrillator was when law enforcement was just showing up. Well, the dispatcher was asking, but then they were like, we have it here. But it sounds like they all got out of the house and they were outside at that point. So I would imagine that when law enforcement showed up. Like they were just getting there. And it's like they have a defibrillator. My interpretation is that this is before law enforcement had gone inside. And so they're going off of what was reported. What was reported was people who were unconscious. And so therefore, I think that's why law enforcement thought a defibrillator would be helpful. I don't think they didn't know at that point, right, what they were going to be working with. So that's my interpretation of the order of things with that. There's no bright line rule as to the allowable time span between the event and the statement, and one likely should not be drawn. As with the present sense impression, the rationale underlying the excited utterance exception is the special reliability, which is regarded as furnished by the excitement, suspending the declarant's powers of reflection and fabrication. All right. Text messages and verbal communications between DM and BF are likely admissible. As an initial matter, the court finds that DM and BF's acts of making phone calls, sending or receiving text messages, and other phone activities, such as accessing social media, are not hearsay. Hearsay, okay, yes, correct, right? Just that an event happened or somebody logged into a thing is not hearsay, obviously. There has to be an assertion. So an oral assertion, written assertion, or nonverbal conduct intended as an assertion. So like somebody giving someone the middle finger, right, for example. Thus, this order will focus on the content of those calls and text to the extent available. As to the content of DM and BF's text messages about what DM saw, the court finds they are not hearsay because they are not offered for the truth of the matter asserted, or not assertions, or if hearsay, they likely qualify as a present sense impression and or excited utterance as set forth in Exhibit A here too. Their verbal discussions are potentially admissible for the same reasons. The state must establish the foundational requirements for such proffered statements at the time of trial. I mean, in my interpretation on all this shit is it should all come in. I mean, like, okay, remember, right? The state made a motion to eliminate to allow it in, and the defense objected, and a lot of it was due to the rule of completeness. And I agree, like bring it all fucking in. I mean, to me, all of this is great for the defense. I don't know why the state. I guess the state has to. I don't know. I can't for the life of me understand what the state is thinking for like any of this. I don't know why they want to have DM as a witness at all. I don't know. I guess they feel like their case will just be done in one day otherwise if they don't just bring all this shit in. But like all of this to me is good for the defense and bad for the state. So anyway, I don't know. I can't figure it out, their strategy with this. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. So, okay, so they're going one by one. So the DM texts the Uber driver at 2:10. I can already say what this is like. That's not hearsay. There's no statement being made. It's just right. State seeks to introduce this text to establish timeline, specifically to establish DM was awake and texting at 2:10 a.m. Defendant does not directly challenge the text because it does not offer for truth of matter and is not an assertion or fact. Right. Twiz, I've been reading every single word of this and I've not gotten to anything about a cleanup. So it must be coming later. I don't know. I'm just reading it literally verbatim, one word at a time, one sentence at a time. And I have not seen anything about cleanup. Text messages between 4:22 and 4:26. State argues that the 4-minute series of text messages between DM and BF with one from DM to Kaylee are admissible as either present sense impressions or excited utterances. Defendant suggests neither exception applies because there is no evidence that they were sufficiently startled by the events. He points out that DM claimed to be only confused, and despite stating she was scared, she ran to BF's room instead of leaving the house or otherwise calling for friends and family for help. Court agrees with the state for those texts qualifying as assertions, footnote 6. Several of the texts in the exchange are not assertions of fact, but rather inquiries and or commands incapable of being proved true or false. First, the present sense impression exception does not require a startling event. It simply requires that the speaker describe or explain a condition while personally perceiving it immediately thereafter. Most of DM's text to BF satisfy this exception. She first texts that no one is answering. I mean, I don't think we need to read all of this, but let's take a look at the footnote here, footnote 7. Her text states that she was scrawled. Considering the A is right next to the caps lock key and the E is right next to W key, it is evident that she was likely texting, right, and scared. I mean, that's what I thought. Right. In addition, the events are sufficiently startling. Again, yeah, I think that most, like, I would want it in anyway, but yeah. Wait, what's this part about? The self-described scaredy cat. What? Hold on. DM and BF are young female college students and the self-described scaredy cats of the house. That's new information. What the fuck? Self-described, and that's from the grand jury transcript. Oh boy. What? Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. They were woken from sleep after a night of drinking, with DM reporting that she heard noises and saw a masked intruder in their home. None of the other roommates were responding to their calls and texts, further indicating that something was amiss. Why are we not calling 911? It would be potentially terrifying for anyone, including these young women. Right, which is why, never mind. I'm just going to be redundant. To argue that they would have run out of the house or called someone else for help. Hold on. Let me read this again. To argue that they would have run out of the house or called someone else for help had they been really startled, unempathetically ignores these circumstances and the trauma and confusion they were evidently experiencing, which likely offset logical thought. Why is this even being said? How does this relate to hearsay? Defendant's argument also ignores the fact that DM indicated to BF that the intruder was leaving the house. Hold on. Defendant's argument also ignores the fact that DM indicated BF that the intruder was leaving the house. That's not what she said. That's not what she said. Oh my God. In which case, it is not surprising the girls did not want to run outside. Had the thought cross their minds at all? What is he? This is irrelevant. Why is this part of this hearsay discussion? Hold on. I don't understand. I'm just going to highlight this a different color, as in I don't know what's happening. Let's make it, I don't even know. We'll make it red, like as in code red. I don't understand. Twiz, are you being twerk out Twiz right now? We love that. Twerk out Twiz. Woo! Twerk out time. Go Twiz, go. Yay! Okay. Hopefully you heard what I said, Twiz, about the part. I haven't gotten anything about cleaning things up yet. So, okay. I don't understand what's happening here. We're just going to highlight this for red, code red. I don't know why Judge Hippler is saying any of this. None of this is, I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Okay. It's just code red. Code red. I wish they could make that red brighter and more red. Additionally, the time period that elapsed between what DM saw and her communications with BF about the same was a matter of minutes. Text message exchange. See, this is proper hearsay discussion, right? About how much time elapsed. That's why this is just, I don't get it. The text message exchange lasts approximately 4 minutes, with the messages occurring in rapid succession. This timeline left no time for the reflection or fabrication. Right. This is normal hearsay discussion right here. Right. Consequently, the court concludes that the assertive text messages within this 4-minute period are likely admissible as present tense impressions and/or excited utterance, assuming the requisite foundation is provided at time trial. Oh my God, that's a great idea. Love it. The action figure, gymnasium Twiz. Yes. It has to be called twerk out Twiz, though. DM text to victims. Okay, I don't need to read all of this because I think that a lot of this is just going to be a lot of the same, and a lot of these are, they're going to come in, right? And it just makes sense. Calls and texts to and from others. Where's footnote 10? The state does not address the content of that phone call. However, the court finds it likely qualifies as a present sense impression. DM testified that she asked EA to come over and check the house because she was scared. She's describing, I don't even have words. This is just crazy. Oh, fuck. Okay. Court agrees. The court's just like, sure. Verbal communications between BF and DM. They're admissible. 911 call. The state contends the entirety of the 911 call should be admitted. Defendant generally objects to its admission, but takes particular issue with 3 statements within the call. The court finds the defendant's objection to these statements well placed, but will allow the balance of the call because these statements are not right. And the exhibit attached is going to have these redacted. So it sounds like they're going to redact. He's going to redact those statements, and I think he already referenced that earlier. Okay. Initial statements. No offer through the matter. He's just going statement by statement. I mean, these are the ones that are coming in, obviously, right? He's just making a record of that. Well, actually, and then here's an exception. He doesn't agree with this one. Because it's another, right. And I said this, when we were breaking this down one by one, I literally said that this would be an exception. This would be one that wouldn't be allowed in, probably because it was someone else relaying the information and it was a person who wasn't there. It's not, the problem being that it's not like, I know a lot of people think the hearsay thing means it's because you heard someone else say it. That's not, and hopefully we've talked about this at length. That's not what it is. The thing is the present sense impression has to apply to the person who's made the assertion, right? And that dude or whoever the fuck it was, present sense impression doesn't apply to him because he's not the person. Does that make sense? Recounting what someone else perceived, right? Yep. And also it was not close enough in time. So I think that one's going to be not let in. Right. That's going to be redacted. Yep. That makes sense. That makes sense if that would be redacted. DM's attempts to explain events. Break is just going, so that's going to be redacted. Xana. It's not free surface through the matter. There's a footnote 13. Okay. Potentially admissible. Statements after law, force to arrive, those are admissible. This is not hearsay, the heavy breathing or what have you. And then here's the transcript will be allowed as demonstrative evidence. We've talked about this a lot. It's not going to go back with the jury. Okay. This, right, they're going to make sure that the call and the transcript match. Rather than passing out individual copies of the transcript with each juror, it may be best to time the audio with the text of the transcript and play for the jury with closed captioning. Otherwise, there's a concern the jury will read ahead. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Or focus too much on one portion of the transcript, not another. However, the actual audio exhibit without the captioning is the one that will go back with the jury. Yep, that's appropriate. That's appropriate. Okay. Based on the foregoing, right, reserved in part, or sorry, granted in part, denied in part, and reserved in part. Yeah, that's fair. As far as that goes. Okay, now here is, oh, nice. So now here is the ruling. I love this. This is great. I appreciate this. So here's, so that you can have it easier to see. Okay, a nice chart. Love this. Love a good chart. Okay, very good. Okay, now this is going to say the ones that are being, let's see here. On here, so the redactions. Okay. So the one that he's redacting, as far as the chart goes, it'll be here. Redacted, redacted. Yep, those ones are the redactions. Right there. Those are the redacted portions. Okay, that makes sense how this is laid out. That makes sense how this is laid out. There they are talking to the officer. Okay. So Twiz, I'm still not sure what you meant about the cleaning up. Is that in a different document? I'll do a control F myself. Yeah, it must be in a different document. Maybe you didn't see which one I was reading. I'm not sure. Cleaning up is not, we read this entire fucking thing, except for some of the parts breaking down the statements, but that would not be where that was. And so there's no cleaning in this. I don't know what you're referencing. Did I miss some other thing where that would come up? Let me just look. If you want me to find it, let me know where it is. I mean, it would have to be in one of these other orders. I can't imagine it's in the death. I mean, I don't know. You're going to have to just tell me where to find it if you want me to look for it. Or unless someone else, or does someone else in the chat know? Does anybody listen? Can you guys hear me? Did you guys all die of shock? Hopefully not. Hopefully you guys are okay. I mean, I doubt he's referencing any of these motions to seal shit. I mean, that wouldn't make any sense. We've already read all these, so I don't know. Keep reading what, Twiz? I already read the entire. I already read. Keep reading what? The docket. What do I keep reading? What do you want me to do? We just finished. We read this. We are at the end. Certificate of service. You want me to read all this? Thank you. It's in the experts. Yeah, we're not doing that one today, Twiz. We're doing Mother of God. So again, this will be so tomorrow we're going to be doing the other two, the vague and undisclosed expert testimony and the death penalty. Now, here's what I will say. The question that Doug is asking goes to how does it work for case law? Okay, here's how it works. So you have to follow precedent, okay? Authority. Here's how it works with authority, all right? So when you're searching for case law, right, what you're going to be looking for, you have to start with, if it's from the U.S. Supreme Court, it's mandatory and binding. You have to follow it, okay? But there's not going to be any U.S. Supreme Court case law on this, right? That would be specific enough to autism, right? So then they would be looking for Idaho. So if you found case law in other states, it doesn't apply. Now, the defense probably, I don't remember what they cited, but in other words, it would be persuasive. It can be persuasive. So persuasive is not binding or mandatory. It means you don't have to follow it. It's persuasive, okay? So if it's outside of the same jurisdiction, so the way that it works, right, is it's mandatory and binding if it's from a higher court level within the same jurisdiction. So for example, for the trial court in Idaho, what is mandatory and binding for Judge Hippler? What is mandatory and binding is if it's from an Idaho appellate court level, the Idaho Supreme Court, or the U.S. Supreme Court. That's what's binding, and you have to follow it. Anything else, whether it be another trial court level in Idaho, or anything from another state, or anything federal, except for U.S. Supreme Court, those are persuasive. And some are considered more persuasive than others. For example, if you cite federal case law, for example, from the Court of Appeals, so let's just say it's from the same circuit, right? same state, same circuit, but federal court of appeals, that will be more persuasive than case law from another state. Does that make sense? So, but we will break it down. I mean, I can explain for sure. We'll go over all of it, right? We can run through all the case law. We can look and see what else is available that could, but hey, here's what I will say, Doug, and to everyone, but because this was Doug's question, the defense in their motion would have included the best case law they possibly could. So there's no way that there's better case law that they just didn't find, right? There's just not possible. So if it's not in their filing, it literally was so crappy that it wouldn't have even mattered, right? And my thought is probably the vast majority of what they have is either persuasive, or if it's within the right, if it's from Idaho, it more than likely is not on point. And that's the other thing, right? It has to be on point. So for example, if the defense is providing Idaho case law that would be mandatory and binding, let's say Idaho Supreme Court, which I feel like they did, right? Like Idaho Supreme Court case law. But I remember, for example, there was a lot that was about people that had, for example, like really low IQs, right? Well, that would be mandatory and binding for another Idaho case but it's not on point enough, right? There's a big difference. So the on pointness is another factor. Has to be on point. But we can totally discuss this. What we will do when we go over it is we will also reference the defense filing and see what case law they had. Although having said that, I'm sure in the order, he probably discusses why their case law is not sufficient, assuming he denies it. I've not looked at it yet, but I would assume he probably is denying it. And so he's probably going to go through and explain exactly why their case law is not sufficient. Absolutely. Yep. They still intend to bring up. So how it's going to work for if he's convicted, how it'll work for the penalty phase is if the defense wants to bring in any of this, what they're calling the neurological and psychiatric evidence and, autism, right? Or, then, and I expect that they will, but then the state will get to bring in another expert to rebut it. But that's up to them. They totally can bring that in as mitigating. A motion to strike the death penalty is a completely different animal, as they say, right? Motions to strike the death penalty are very rarely granted. You know what I mean? And for anyone who's following the Xana Gardner case, I covered all of those motions to strike the death penalty. They actually had more motions in that case than this case. I think it was like 17 motions maybe total. 17 motions to strike the death penalty in Xana Gardner's case, and maybe I think it was 11 here, but then they had 2 additional ones just recently. So it went up to 13. Anyway, but I cover all of that. So you can see what they look like if you want to see Florida's example of what they use for the motion to strike the death penalty, but they're very rarely successful. Okay, right. So then this could be considered persuasive if it's Virginia. Yep, out it's a different state. Yep. Yeah, I think that the case you're referencing here is probably the one that stuck out to me, just from when we covered it previously, was there was a lot of it dealt with having a really low IQ, and that's just not the case here. It's not on point. But we will break it down and explain exactly why things are or are not on point, and also because it's a separate but equal discussion, right? Whether something's on point or not is one whole thing, and then the other thing is is it binding? That's a much easier line to draw because it's either is or it isn't, right? Is it persuasive? And then if it's, if it's binding and it's on point, they have to follow it, right? So again, that has to be from a higher court level in the same jurisdiction. So hopefully that makes sense to y'all the way that, but we'll break it down more in detail when we go through it. When I was getting my paralegal certificate, that was a lot of what we had to do is learn how this works with the, with case law. And we did a lot using Westlaw, and it was awesome. I freaking loved it. And a lot of legal research, and a lot that was it. A lot of our assignments were having to find the case law, right? It doesn't exist. Does it not exist? And then you have to shepherdize it, which means, is it still good case law? Because things get overturned. They get remanded back to the trial court, right? You have to figure out and then other times you're actually going to be citing potentially the dissenting opinion. And there's just a lot that goes into it. It's really fascinating. What are you talking about, Twiz? Bring me you. Why is Heather mad? Why is Heather mad? You're welcome. You're welcome. Why is Heather mad? Twiz, are you still working out? Work out, Twiz. Work out, Twiz. Yay. But yeah, tomorrow we will go through that. And apparently for speaking of Karen Reed in my brain, we're about to redirect over to that. But for Karen Reed, apparently tomorrow is going to be a light day for court because I think they're doing a jury view. And so there may not be that much witness testimony. So anywho, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. So, because what this will do is redirect you guys into that Karen Reed stream. Very interesting day today in court. And also I do have, there's a new court filing for that as well that we will, you hid her. What? Don't be doing that, Twiz, or I'll fire you. Don't be naughty. Don't be naughty or I'll fire you. Okay, but this was a lot. Before I forget, let me save this because that way it'll have my highlights and then it'll get moved over into my maps folder. Again, my maps folder is my VK folder. It's funny. Save. Oh, wait, that's right. I have to save it on my computer. Okay, hold on. Let me just pull this up into a different thing. And put it into maps. Maps. How funny, it automatically wanted to save it under maps. How does it know? How does it know I wanted to save it under maps? Wait, they don't love you like I love you. Wait, maps. Does anyone know that song? Anyway, okay, so it's saved. Let me just make sure it's there with my highlighters highlighting. Yep, there it is. Cool. Excellent. All right, so I'm hoping so. Need some Z's. We're really excited to see that. Really excited to see that. Okay, so without further ado, we will go ahead and redirect into Karen Reed. See you guys on the other side here in just a sec. Love y'all and scroll out.